Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So as I was finishing up Insomniac Spider-Man 2, I really got into this massive Spider-Man urge. Like, I think a lot of you guys can probably relate. You're playing Spider-Man 2 and it just kind of puts you in the Spider-Man mood. Not only that, by the same time that that game was released, Netflix released the Miles Morales Across the Spider-Verse, and I was like, oh man, this is just like a Spidey good time. So I started thinking to myself, I really want to go back and play some of the earlier Spider-Man games, and I want to play one game that maybe a lot of people don't even know much about, and that is none other than Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. This game basically started the whole Spider-Verse multiverse concept. Before Dan Slott made the Spider-Verse comic books, before Miles Morales Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse movies hit the big screen, we had the Spider-Man Shattered Dimension game. So I really wanted to go back and replay the game and see how well it held up now, 13 years later after its initial release, because when the game came out, it was really revolutionary. Like, people absolutely, like, if you were a Spider-Man fan, you had to play that game. And it's really interesting going back and playing Shattered Dimensions again and kind of comparing it to what Insomniac is doing now. And you can kind of see where a lot of inspiration from today's Insomniac games came from games like Shattered Dimensions and Spider-Man 2 and Web of Shadows. So I really wanted to just kind of dive back into the game. I streamed it a little bit and I jumped back in and I really fell in love with the game all over again. The game came out back in September 7th of 2010, and it was a game that me and my buddy Chris, we just talked about all the time. It was so awesome being able to play between 4 different time periods of Spider-Man. Because like I said, the Spider-Verse stuff, that's commonplace now, right? It's everywhere. It's in the video games, it's in the movies, it's in the comic book. This game really is what launched the whole Spider-Verse concept. The story for this game, super simple. Mysterio is doing some shenanigans inside the museum trying to find this tablet, this talisman, and Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man, comes in and actually stops him. And in the process, the tablet, the talisman, it like shatters across all dimensions. And now it's up to Spider-Man to try to bring back all these different talismans and stuff like that. And the talismans have like superpowers that kind of like infect the villains and make them stronger and act even more crazier than they already do. And Madam Web basically explains to Amazing Spider-Man that there's 3 other universes that these talisman tablets kind of spread to. And that's where the story begins. You play as Amazing Spider-Man, which has a great cel-shaded comic book style. I really love the style of the Amazing Spider-Man part of the game because it has that comic book feel, and I love it. The humor, the voice acting by Neil Patrick Harris is just phenomenal. I think the Amazing Spider-Man levels are the ones I enjoy the most because it's more like classic Spidey, but you also have 3 other ones. You have Spider-Man Noir, who did appear in the comic books in his own like little standalone thing, and that's more like of a stealth takedown game. And then you have Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara, and then, of course, Ultimate Spider-Man, where Peter is wearing the symbiote suit. And each one of these different versions of Spider-Man has their own unique kind of abilities. The Amazing Spider-Man is something that you would see more like in the Insomniac games today. And you have Noir with Stealth Takedown. You have Miguel O'Hara, which is more like a sci-fi, kind of similar to Amazing Spider-Man, but has more tech and more stuff like that can kind of, go throughout the level, and it's just a little bit more realistic graphics, more photorealism in the graphics department, more spectacular when it comes to the visuals. And then you have the Ultimate Spider-Man, which really relies on the symbiote rage and all that. Each one of these levels does a great job giving you a different unique abilities and concepts of Spider-Man, so you're constantly not just playing the same thing over and over again. By the time you start to feel kind of repetitive, you go into the next level, and then you start fighting in a different variety, whether you're doing the stealth takedowns and stuff like that, which really slows down that gameplay. As you go through the level, you collect like gold and silver spider pieces, you level up the character, you do upgrades and all kinds of stuff that you see in modern Spider-Man games today. And a lot of the gameplay is much like we are accustomed to when it comes to the Insomniac Spider-Man games, where it's like punch, punch, dodge, and it's not redefined like it is today, but you can see where the blueprint of what Insomniac was going to do came from in this Activision game. And Shattered Dimensions, to be honest with you, is a game that I really enjoyed going back to and playing and kind of getting that history refresh. The game is like 13, going on 14 years old at this point, and it's still just as fun today as it was back then. I think a lot of people today are so caught up in graphics and all this sort of thing, they don't take a good step back to kind of appreciate what came prior to that. And the one thing that I really enjoy is going back to the PS3 and the Xbox 360 era and really go back and experience some of those great games. Because if it wasn't for that generation, I think the 360 and the PS3 generation is probably the most important generation in terms of how we game today. When you look to see what we have today when it comes to online internet play, party chat, friends list, all that stuff. All that came from the Xbox 360 and the PS3 era. And they really took a lot of the concepts of the games and they redefined them to make them bigger, better, and more epic than they were in the previous generations of like the PS2 and the Xbox era. The 360 and PS3 era really put out a lot of bangers, and it's one of my favorite generations to collect for. I'm always buying Xbox 360 and PS3 games. And Shattered Dimensions, this is a pricey game right now. Like depending if you get this in box complete copy, this can get you anywhere between $90 to $100. That's how much this thing costs. I was fortunate enough at a convention, I was able to pick this thing up for $60. It is complete in box. And I have it in a nice little like hard shell because I don't want to ruin it, because I have some decent Xbox 360 games that are going up in value. And as the PS3 store and the Xbox 360 store closes, these games are going to be lost in time. And the only way to play these games is with buying stuff from like mom and pop shops or conventions and buying those physical games. So I was fortunate enough to pick this up. I still don't have Edge of Time or Webs of Shadows. I'm really looking to get those. Web of Shadows is the most expensive out of all of them. I think that's running anywhere like $150 complete in box. And that is the next goal for me. Web of Shadows, again, highly influenced game on what Insomniac is doing today. And that is one game that I want to get because when you talk about the mecca of Spider-Man games, it comes to Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 2 and Xbox and GameCube, and then Web of Shadows, Shattered Dimensions, and then we get into the Insomniac games. So those are really the mecca when it comes to Spider-Man games. And Shattered Dimensions, it's a fun game. If you have nothing to do on the weekend, you just want to get your friends over, you can beat this game in one sitting. You can beat it in like maybe 4 or 5 hours. Take turns. Like maybe your friend will play this version of the character, you play this other version of the character, and you can just go through and just have a great time. Just kind of reliving the past and having a great time how games were and kind of see how things ended up with these Insomniac games. So anyway, guys, that's my thoughts on Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, kind of reliving the past. If you guys enjoyed this video, want to see more of these reliving past games, be sure to click that like button, leave a comment in the comment box below, smash that subscribe button, and until next time, as always, I am Robert Storms, and thank you so much for watching.